Good morning, my 4B explorers. Happy Monday. We are back at it with our science unit. We started talking about habitats a little bit when we talked about the forest and the ocean and how you could take care of them and talk about protecting them during our Earth Day and Arbor Day week. And then last week, you started your packet by working on the Arctic habitat, which is the coldest polar parts of our world, where there, are icicles, there's icebergs, the water is freezing, and there's either sun all day or sun does not even come out for days and weeks. And the polar are very harsh places to live. So the animals had to work really hard to adapt there. Then we dived into that cold water, but it could be warm too. And we swam around the earth talking about ocean animals. We talked about the warmer climates with the coral reefs, and we talked about colder climates with animals like whales that would live in there. And you could even go nice and deep and find animals like sharks or octopi. So that would be awesome if we could go diving into the water. If you got a chance, I hope you watched the videos that I posted, the underwater cliff diving or looking at the coral reefs to see just how magnificent and huge and crazy different our ocean is. This week, we're going to be talking about only one habitat, the rainforest. Now, we'll be working on the rainforest in our packet later on in the week on Wednesday. Today, I thought I would take a second to back up and say, Ms. Romas, we've been talking about some animals and habitats, but we're not really talking about what types of animals live in these places, in these habitats. We know that there's water animals, there's animals that can fly, and there's animals that can stay on land, that can't swim or fly. Well, there's not just those types of animals. It gets a little more specific. Now, when we're talking about animals, there's several types, and we're going to be talking about those today, as well as a new word called offspring. Now, I know this is definitely diagonal, but I'm trying to keep it fun. Don't worry, I'll fix that when we get closer to it. But anyways, we're talking about offspring also. What is an offspring? A baby animal. So we're going to be talking about the types of animals and also how you can tell a baby animal is the offspring of its parents, of its older animals. We're going to be talking about that later on. So let's get started with the type of animals. There's several types. As I said, there's several types, and I went ahead and wrote them down here. I jumped ahead so you didn't have to stay on there all day and watch me write on the board. But there's types of animals that we'll be talking about that come up in our packet. If you were to flip to a page in our packet, for example, we'll be talking about the rainforest this week. If you saw on the page of an animal, it would say the name of the animal, like jaguar, and underneath it, it says what type of animal it is. So if you look a little closer, it says that the jaguar is a mammal. A mammal is a type of animal, but if you were to flip a little further, you would find an animal like the boa constrictor. A boa constrictor is a reptile. It's another type of animal. And if I went even further, found this cute little tree frog, it says amphibian. Now, there were other types of animals that we learned about earlier on in the week. We learned about birds, we learned about certain fish, and now we're learning about animals like reptiles, amphibians, birds, and mammals. These are the ones I wanted to focus on because these are the different types, and everyone kind of falls in to one of these spots, which is kind of cool. So an amphibian, here's an example of an amphibian. I'll show you on my screen. This is an amphibian. An amphibian and a reptile are very similar, but an amphibian lays its eggs in the water like a frog, and then when those animals grow up, they can live on the land and in the water. And so that's why they have very slick, almost slimy skin to them, and they're able to swim really well. That's why if you look here at the frog's kind of fingers almost, they're able to grab onto things like a tree, but they're also able to grab onto things in the water. This is a tree frog that we're actually going to learn about for the rainforest. Now there's other types of amphibians like a salamander. You can see again that slimy skin and how it would be able to grab onto things on land and in the water. It kind of looks like it's in the middle of transforming. And then here's another example, oh, sorry, that's a reptile. So now I guess I'll jump into the reptiles because I was very unorganized. So an amphibian is very slimy. It can go underwater and it can go on land and lay its eggs there. Now here's an example of a reptile. You have a turtle. You have it's loading. You have lizards and iguanas like this. And the difference between a amphibian and a reptile, here's a snake, is that they lay their eggs on land and they have a rougher skin. So you see the scales of a snake, you see the scales of a lizard, kind of like that bumpy, rocky skin. And then, of course, we all know the shell of a turtle. Now, I know what you're saying. Miss Remitz, a turtle lives in the water. Well, a turtle actually swims out of the water and lays its eggs on the beach so that they're going to be able to grow nice and easy, because unlike a fish, they can't create sort of a net to keep their eggs safe underwater, and they want to keep them up on land. And eventually the little baby eggs will hatch and the turtles will have to swim into the water, just like this mama turtle did. So a reptile lays its eggs on land. So this week we're going to be seeing a reptile in the boa constrictor, which is a huge, one of the biggest snakes on the planet. And that's in the rainforest. The rainforest is known for having some crazy animals. Well, that's not the only two animals we'll be talking about. Of course, we also have birds, right? And you know birds because you see them wherever you go. The world has different types of birds, and birds are a type of animal that was able to grow wings over time, of course. And those wings kind of act as their hands. Now, they have 2 feet that they're able to hop on, but mostly they move around by their wings. So these animals are able to get away from prey, or well, predators that are on the ground and might have to jump up to eat them, like maybe a fox or a dog. Well, these animals are flying and they lay their eggs in nests. And the nice thing is that a lot of birds are so colorful and different from each other. They might be colorful so that they can get someone who would want to start a family with them. Or they might be dark, like say this bird, so they can blend in to where they're living, kind of like a polar bear does. And that's called an adaptation. There's that special word, ding, 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 adaptation, our first adaptations of the week. These animals are adapting by having that colorful feathers so that they can get people to like them, or they're having darker feathers so that they can blend in where they are and hide from anyone hunting them. Well, that's the example of a bird. Now, one of the biggest ones that I think is the most important, probably because I'm a little biased, is a mammal. We are actually mammals. This is where we fit into the whole animal place. A mammal like this monkey family here, or this cheetah, which we're going to be learning about later on in our weeks of habitats. A mammal animal is someone who can have a baby without needing to lay an egg, and they're able to feed milk, kind of like how a cow has udders and they're able to feed baby cows with their milk. Mammals are able to feed milk to their babies. And mammals are able to go maybe in water, on land, but we're definitely not able to fly. But that's why animals like a dolphin or a whale, who are mammals, they need that blowhole so that they can still breathe when they're in the water. But when they're having their babies, they're not laying eggs like a reptile or an amphibian or even a bird. A mammal is having a baby and can't have too many at a time. We're not having 1 million fish babies. Normally, a human or a mammal can only have 1 to 2 and sometimes a few more babies at a time. And that's what you've been learning in your packet. Now, when it comes to babies, now that we know the different types of animals, when it comes to babies, that's called an offspring. So an offspring is when a baby is born, it should look like its parent. That's how you know, oh, that kid is definitely that mom's daughter or something. Or you can say this cheetah is definitely the mama cheetah's baby. It's just because we have something in our body that makes us look the way we look. That's why none of us look the same. You know, even twins, and we're so lucky to have twins in our class, even twins, there's something that is different. And I know Allison and Natalie have been telling us all year, one of them might be taller, one of them might have a different freckle, or, you know, maybe one of them has, I don't know, smaller ears or something. One of them even had a birthmark, say. There's different ways to tell offspring apart, but none of them look exactly alike. There's only things they have in common. If you pause this video, look at your parents. Really study them. Maybe take your parent and ask them to go sit in the mirror with you and look in the mirror and see just why do you look like your parents. Now, here's another version of another person of a mammal. Look at this, panda. Here's the mama panda and here's the baby panda. I can tell that that offspring is a panda because it looks almost exactly like the mommy panda. So this is where you start to sort, where you have to match them up. If I had you all stand in a line in class and invited your parents to come in, or even your grandparents sometimes, I would probably do pretty well at matching up, going, oh, yep, that's Riley's mom, or oh, yep, that's Julian's dad, or oh, yep, that's Yenna's mom. I could probably match you up with your parents because you are the offspring of them. You look kind of like them. You might have their hair. You might have their eye color. You might have, you know, the same smile as them. Or maybe you're tall like your dad and your sister or brother is short like your mom. Or maybe, you know, your dad is a brunette, but you're blonde. Well, it's probably because your mom was blonde, or maybe a grandparent was blonde. That's really fun. That's called genetics, but we're not going to really be talking about that. What I care about is why an offspring looks like its parents and how you can tell. Let's look at some more animals. Let's look at who's next. Ah, the lion. We can see from Lion King, we got little Simba here. This baby lion, this cub, looks like its parent. It looks like the offspring looks like its parent because they have the same fur color. They have the same slanted eyes. They have the same mouths. They have the same paws. You can tell that they have similar ears. So they definitely look alike. When that animal grows up, it would even have a mane like its dad if it's a male. If it wasn't, it would be, you know, just no mane. Here we have an elephant. This literally looks like that elephant, just a smaller, tiny toy version of it. You can tell that that's the baby of the mom. Now, if you asked me to line up 5 adult elephants and 5 baby elephants and match them up, I would have a hard time with that because I am not an elephant. But these elephants have a way that they communicate with each other to tell who's whose baby. But if I lined up a bunch of humans, I'd have a better time. Let's look at one more animal. Here we have a capybara. So I love capybaras. They're so funny looking. But look, it literally looks like you just took the picture of the mommy capybara and shrunk it down and put it right next to it. These babies are even doing the whole face that the capybara mom is making. When it comes to offspring, they look almost identical to their parents, and that's how you can tell them apart. You need to see what they have in common. Is it their face? Is it their ears? Is it their wings, if they're birds? Is it their fur color, their size, their paw types? What is it that an offspring has in common with its parents? I'm going to jump back to my camera, and I'm going to show you a packet. Okay, so we have this packet here, and I gave this to you, and I did mention when one of you asked me last week if we would be using this, I said, you know, we might just focus on our animal habitat packet. But then I said, This packet is perfect for talking about Offspring, and that's what I wanted to do. So I'll give you only a few pages. If you are up to the challenge and you have some free time on your hands, yes, you can absolutely do this entire packet if you want. It has some more diagramming in it and has a fun poem or song if you want to sing. So yes, you can absolutely keep going, but I'm only going to ask you to do a few pages for me today. So this is asking about sorting animals and plants. This is just a fun way to tell the difference between an animal and plants. You can put a check next to each animal, an X by each plant, and then I want you to count them up and see the difference. That's a nice little warm-up. There's a little poem song here about animal babies, and that's what we're talking about here, an animal matchup. Now, you can cut these out. If you do not want to cut the paper, you can absolutely get a marker or a pencil. Pencils are good for making mistakes. And you could draw a line and match up the parents to their offspring. Now, the offspring will look pretty much like the parent. So if you're already looking at this little baby bunny, you might be able to find the mama rabbit. Here you have a fowl, which is a baby horse. You have a kitten, a baby cat, a puppy, which is a baby dog, and a tadpole, which is a baby frog. Knowing that, can you find the parents here? Some of you might say, oh, that's a little easy. And if you're thinking that's easy, that probably means that you already have an understanding of the types of animals and how offspring look like their babies. For those of you who might be a little confused about an offspring, do you remember when we read Are You My Mother? Well, that famous Dr. Seuss story is all about offspring. The baby bird didn't know what its mom looked like, but it should have known, if it knew about offspring, that it should find someone that looks exactly like itself. That's how you would know that it was a baby bird. But instead, it was finding a cat and a hen and a cow, a dog. But those weren't the same type of animal, so it was wrong. You'll be doing this page too. If you want, I have a word search here about baby animals. Then you can do diagrams if you want on different parts of animals. But I think a really important part is the types of body parts. I'll show you the whole packet. So this would be a little matching to specific animals, like, oh, a camel has a hump, right? So you can put that there. Mystery animal, you have to read it and then draw what it is. So if you want, you can do the entire page, but I'm going to star for you which pages I want you to do. I want you to do this page. Excuse me. I want you to do this page. And I would really like it if you could do this page. So that's only 3 pages that you'll be doing today. If you are up to the challenge, my friends, I would love you to do the entire packet and let me know what you thought about it. Was it easier for you now that you've been working on your habitat packet? Or was it still a little confusing trying to match up those body parts or offspring to their parents? Well, a good way that I can help you learn different types of offspring is with this book. This book's been in our science bin all year, and some of you probably used it for your nonfiction text features, which was awesome. So this is called How Many Baby Animals? Now, this is a great math book, but I'm looking at this not to learn about counting. I'm learning about the names of baby animals. Let's visit a farm to learn about baby animals. I will count the baby animals. A baby cow is a calf. And we learned about that with the dolphins and the whales, how they named their babies calves. And you can count the calves if you want. I see a 1 and a 2, a skiddly diddly do. Mother horses have fowls. So here we have the fowl, which is the baby horse. And look how knobbly its legs are. How fun. Oh, it's a girl. It's nice to know. I couldn't tell, really. But you can see how it looks like its mom. It has the same fur color, or well, hair color. Has the same mane and even the same white bushy tail. And here we see some baby goats, which are called kids. We have a flock of sheep, and here you can see the baby lambs. These lambs are fuzzy and have wool, but they're not as big yet. So you can see that they're going to eventually get as big as their parents, but maybe they'll have that long fur or wool eventually. You can make sweaters out of that. Here you see the goslings, which are the baby geese. You've probably started seeing them if you go outside around the park. It's springtime. And we, of course, know kittens and puppies, which you can see that they definitely look like their mommy here. Some of them have the same kind of black and orange mix of fur. Oh, now these aren't goslings. These are ducklings, which are baby ducks. So they even have different names for different types of bird babies. That's exciting. We have our piglets here, which are the baby piggies. They definitely look like their mommy pig. We have bunnies. Oh, he likes the bunny with the spots best. Now, what's interesting is baby bunnies won't always look exactly like their parents. Depending on the two types of bunnies that have babies, they might have different fur color that maybe takes both colors and smushes them together. Maybe they'll be spotted, or maybe they'll just have the exact same color as their mom. And then baby fish are called fingerlings because they look like baby fingers. That's an awesome name for a little baby fish. I wonder if you can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I wish I'd have the answers. Oh, baby spiders are called spiderlings. That's good enough. Ah! But baby spiders, insects are also a type of animal, but they're kind of in their own world. An insect is very different than a bird or a fish or a mammal like you and me, right? But we will be talking about some insects during this because every habitat has its own special type of insect. That is, if the insect can survive. The colder it is, the harder it is for insects to survive. So they'll definitely be in the rainforest, but in the Arctic, you might not be finding a spider crawling around. My friends, I just wanted to show you these types of baby animals because we've been talking about animals today in the different types, like amphibians, reptiles, mammals, birds. These are definitely mostly mammals. You have a fish here and an insect here, and then we have some birds over here, but mostly we have mammals, and you can see how they're not laying eggs. They're having their babies come out just looking like them. They don't have to hatch. They just have to stay in the mommy's tummy for quite a while. So my explorers, now that we spent some time talking about the types of animals and then eventually their offspring and even learning some of the names of the offspring, now it's up to you to go work on those few pages of your packet. You don't have to worry about the rainforest. We'll be talking about the rainforest on Wednesday. We'll learn about some famous animals in there. I'll have a couple of videos for you. And you'll get to do your flip grid telling me about your favorite animals. I loved watching your ocean and Arctic habitat flip grids, learn about all the different animals that you liked. It was fun. We had a lot of penguins, a lot of Arctic foxes because how they can hunt, and definitely a lot of polar bears too. And then for the ocean, it was nice to hear about how many of you love dolphins. I'm happy to hear that. Well, my friends, I'm going to say goodbye to you now. Good luck. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask me, but definitely get your parents and go to a mirror and see how you look like them. Here is a picture of me and my dad. Here's a baby picture of me and my dad. And you can see how him and I have the same hair color, we have the same skin color, and if you even zoomed in when he's not wearing glasses and neither am I, we have the same blue eye color. Now, if you were to look at a picture of me and my mom, she has more freckles than me, but she has dark hair and blue eyes, whereas I have light hair and blue eyes. So you can see how your parents take what they look like and mush it together, and then you have the child. So that's why you don't look exactly like your siblings. It's a really fun way to look at offspring and types of animals. So my mammals, go ahead and try that if you have the time. But other than that, I'll see you on Wednesday for our next science mission, or well, science adventure. Bye, explorers!